Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining. I hope you guys have been having a great show, and you've all had enough ice cream and enough booze, and you're kind of ready to pack up. My name is Sam. I'm the influencer lead of an agency called Pinpoint, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about TikTok. I'm going to be recapping on some things that have been happening over the last few years, and yeah, everything in between. So let's get started. So first of all, just a quick note on the title, why you're already out of touch on TikTok. It's a little bit of a play on words. Essentially, we are all in some way, shape or form out of touch on TikTok. Since I finished speaking, potentially there'll be some changes to the algorithm. Definitely since I finished it a couple of weeks ago, there are different things that change within the landscape, different things that creators are focusing on. And this presentation is just kind of a recap of what's been happening in the industry over the last 2 or 3 years, kind of how TikTok came to be across the West, and some tips and tricks on what you can do moving forward if you've not already started making content on TikTok, or if you've been doing it for quite some time. Hopefully there's something that you can take away from this. Before we dive into that, just a quick note on Pinpoint. So we're a people-first influencer marketing agency that puts storytelling and service first. What we're doing in the space is we're applying our award-winning PR approach to the content creator space, trying to provide stronger ROI by spearheading better relationships between brands and creators, and not focusing on vanity metrics. So moving away from just views and amplification, but trying to really drill into what means the most for true ROI. I'm actually wearing the same shirt as I am in that one. I promise I have got other clothes. But yeah, there's a lovely photo of me smiling, probably a little less clammy than I am today. A little bit about me. So I've been working in video games comms now for almost a decade. I've worked in lots of different parts of comms. So I've worked in PR, I've worked in social influencer activations, influence marketing in general. So yeah, I've covered a lot of stuff in games. During that time, I've worked with some non-endemic brands and some endemic brands, and I'll show you some of those in a minute. I think one of the best things that I've been able to learn from this is that I've been able to apply learnings from both sides. There have been, different things that have happened with non-endemic clients that are looking to have their hand held to get into the industry versus people who've been launching games in the space for many years and probably will be doing so for many years to come. And here's kind of a visual representation of what I've been up to during that time. So I'll start from the top. So I'm now the influencer lead at Pinpoint, which is Bastion's official influencer marketing arm. I've actually worked at Bastion as well. I was on the PR team there for about 3.5 years. So I've seen both sides of the coin there. And then, there's kind of just a pool of clients that I've worked with during that time. So yeah, I mean, most of them are games, and you'll see there are a couple there like KFC. I did KFC's activation strategy with influencers, KFC Gaming for about a year. We worked with some aggregator partners like Just Eat in that time, doing some activations on Twitch. And then you'll see one as well that's not even games, the Pastor Evangelist. That was a pure TikTok growth account from zero, sort of breaking the barrier at 50,000, and I think now they're in the hundreds of thousands. So yeah, and then loads of games launches in between everything else. So yeah, loads of stuff. So let's move on to TikTok. So just to recap, how has it evolved? So we'll start with how it actually entered the space. So Musical.ly, I'm sure some of you remember Musical.ly from way back in the day. Was a music-based app that allowed you to do duets and lip sync battles with your friends, post short videos. It was kind of like the predecessor to Vine. And what TikTok at the time was doing, it was under a different name, which I'm not going to try and pronounce. And that was working really well in China. They didn't really have a strategy properly to conquer the Western market. So what they did is they merged Musical.ly, or they acquired Musical.ly. They merged the features and the user base, and that became TikTok as it is today. That's the platform that we know and love, and obviously it's evolved throughout that time. This is a quote from the TikTok CEO. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of their mission statement in general. It wants to inspire creativity and bring joy, and they want to be doing this by activating 3 separate pillars. So the first one is that they want to offer a window to discover more. They want to provide a canvas for people to create, and they want to build bridges for people to connect. So with that all in mind, what they're trying to say is they want it to be really easy to make stuff, really easy to consume stuff, and really easy to just have a really good time on TikTok to the point where you can't put it down, which is, I'm sure, a story for a lot of us in the room. And yeah, I mean, yeah, the stats kind of speak to themselves. Yeah, 1 billion monthly active users on the platform, a lot of which are probably using it a hell of a lot more than just once per month. And yeah, it's been downloaded almost 3 billion times across the world. So a huge chunk of people on TikTok. The picture on the right-hand side, I don't really have a huge amount to say on it, but this is rumored to be the first ever TikTok that was posted on the platform. It was filmed sideways. It's not massively engaging. There's not many like key points to it. But it's a nice kind of like point to understand how far we've come in short form content, and yeah, kind of gives us a steer of potentially where we're going in the future. So why should you be on TikTok? It's a great question. So the first thing is that, yeah, it's at the forefront of organic awareness and organic growth at the moment. It's far easier to grow on TikTok than it is on pretty much any other social platform at the moment. And that's down to a lot of algorithm changes that they've been refining over years. It's a great place for you to stay on trend as well, be trendy. And this applies to everything in social media, really. There are so many trends that start on TikTok that bleed into other platforms. Like you go on, you know, how many times have you been on Instagram Reels specifically and you've seen the TikTok watermark? You know, there's a reason why they add that to the system. And yeah, I mean, you see sometimes trends bleeding onto Twitter and things like that. I think if you don't have much time to pay attention to social media in general, going on TikTok and finding out what the trends are quite a good barometer to get a picture or get a visualization of what's actually going on. And lastly, yeah, you get to see some cool stuff. So I won't run through these in massive detail, but these are some of the trends that have happened on my feed over the last sort of 18 months. Yeah, my favorite probably being the chip shop in Birmingham on the right-hand side that became sort of inundated with creators for about 3 weeks and nobody really knows why. But yeah. So yeah, what's changed in the last 3 years? To be honest, it's probably more than 3 years as well. But specifically speaking, the core market has changed. So when TikTok came over to the West, there was a lot of controversy, and it's been in the press many times. There's always a lot of question marks about like ethical stuff within TikTok. When it first came over, Musical.ly obviously was targeting younger people, potentially children, and TikTok was kind of going the same way, or it felt like it was going the same way. And what's happened in recent years is that internal marketing towards, from TikTok themselves and the content that you consume on the app as well is not just targeted at people under the age of 30. It's pretty much everyone on earth now. There's a piece of content everywhere that people can love and enjoy on the platform, which is fantastic. The second thing is the creators themselves. So when TikTok first hit the Western market, there were lots of creators that were moving over from other platforms that had seen a lot of success. And what they were doing is they were moving their strategies over from Instagram or YouTube or Twitch, for example. And yeah, they were, what they were doing was working really, really well for them. What's happening at the moment is, the algorithm is starting to favor talent rather than amplification, which is good because it gives everyone an equal opportunity to grow on the platform. We're just seeing a much more mixed bag, which is great. And lastly, the content, and this has been changing, ever since it really arrived here. Content on TikTok is no longer, or mostly, is no longer glossy. Glossy content and advert-like content still has its place. Sometimes on TikTok, it has that, with paid media, adverts and things like that. Glossy content belongs, in my opinion, in long-form content. If you're eating your dinner, you don't really want to watch a grainy piece of footage. You want to watch something that's really well put together. It's got a few title slides and the like. So, yeah, creators are starting to move now into content that's less perfect, speaks and resonates more with their audiences because it feels more authentic. It feels like something that friends would just share between their mates rather than watching somebody, in their tower deliver something to the little people. Is it just for kids? So the short answer is no. This stat on the left-hand side is a bit of a mouthful, and I'm going to give it a go, but forgive me if I get it wrong. Over 40s on the platform. So 84% of over 40s on TikTok next year want to be using the app the same, if not more. And for millennials, it's 81%. So what I'm trying to say there is that if you're over the age of 25 or 26, whenever the cutoff for millennials is, you're loving your time on TikTok. You're absorbing the content that you really, really enjoy. You want more of it. you don't care how addicting it is, you're just having a nice time, which is fantastic for marketers like us, because it means that the content that's being pushed on the platform is working, the algorithm is giving people what they want to see. And here's a little graph. It's always nice to include a graph, isn't it? There should really be another bar on the left-hand side of this that probably shows you people under the age of 10, but obviously we can't collate that data for many reasons. But this is just a good indication to show you that the window for early adoption on TikTok is closing. It's now quite a level playing field. Obviously, people will be between the ages of 10 and 19 are still always going to be, they're tech natives. They're always going to be at the forefront of that. But it's catching up. Everyone else is having a really good time on the platform, and there's content available for everybody. How the app works. So any social media marketer that you see on LinkedIn, or anyone that tells you that they know exactly how the algorithm works, like word for word, is not telling the truth. They're telling a few porkies. None of us really know fully how the app works. We have lots of different case studies and test and learn phases that we can work out what's actually going on with the app. But by the time we learn all of it, it will have changed again. The algorithm would have added something else, or there'll be new features. Essentially, the algorithm, how it works, is TikTok's secret sauce. It's a bit like the Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices, right? If you Google them, you can find out what they are, but the recipe is a well-guarded secret. All you know is it tastes delicious. It's the same thing. We know the algorithm works. We know it's really engaging, and we know most of what's going on, but you're not going to know exactly what's going on. So a couple of months ago, I watched a TikTok TED talk, bit of a mouthful. And yeah, it was from the TikTok CEO. Really, really good talk. If you guys are interested in watching it, I highly recommend it. And it came to the algorithm. There's an algorithm point, and this is a very, very simplified version, and I've drawn it out in PowerPoint for you. Say I watch videos 1, 2, and 4. You guys watch videos 1, 2, and 5. Let's say that we've both reacted similarly to each of those videos. I've watched a video for 10 seconds and then moved on. You've done the same thing. We've got similar interests. The algorithm notices that we're quite similar people and what we like, and it'll then feed us a video together. When I react to that video, if I really like that video and you don't like that video, you'll then be paired off into a different part of that tree sort of system. And that's happening across 1 billion people. And that's why on TikTok, when when you're always wondering how the hell does this app know what kind of content I like straight away, there's a reason for it, because it's just pairing you with people that have similar interests to you, and it's just feeding you what they like, and it's just matching you. So that's why when you make content on TikTok, consistency is so important, because the more videos that you can feed, and you can be a part of videos 1, 2, and 4, or videos 1, 2, and 5, it's just going to be massively beneficial to you. Yeah, we'll talk about cadence in just a minute. So what do we know now? So the first thing we know, and I'm speaking from personal experience with this, I don't know if any of you have owned TikTok accounts or you do them for brands, but you'll know that performance overall isn't instant. It's not an instant engager. Long gone are the days where you watch a YouTube video, or you post a YouTube video, and within the first 24 hours, 36 hours, you've got all of your results. That's just not the way that TikTok works. If your content falls flat, then yeah, maybe you will see all of the results straight away. But if it's engaging and communities are really enjoying it, you can see performance of it months at a time. I posted a video 2 months ago on my own personal TikTok, and I still get likes from it. Maybe I get 1 like every 2 days from it. It's just constantly rolling into different people's feeds. And that's all thanks to the algorithm. The next thing we know is that trendsetters in general are smaller. So what I mean by this is when you watch a trend from somebody that you know online, obviously a bigger creator, say they've got 10 million followers. If you watch them capitalize on a trend, 9 times out of 10, they haven't started that trend, and they probably haven't gained it, or they haven't learnt about it from somebody else of that similar size. Those trends normally start with people way, way down the food chain. Because simply put, people at a different stage of TikTok that are trying to grow rapidly, they've got less to lose. They haven't got 10 million followers that need that constant level of stimulation. They have an audience of 100 people who like a few things that they do, and yeah, they're just willing to experiment more. They've got absolutely nothing to lose, and those trends bubble up from the top, and then obviously gets to a point where a creator of a certain size just goes, yoink, I'll have that. That works for me. And yeah, so the lesson there is just, if you're trying to make content and you want to hit trends faster than when you see them bubble to the top, just pay attention to the niche communities that you want to be involved in. and do a little bit of homework. It's always really important. New feature bonuses. So I don't know if any of you have been on the app recently, maybe the last sort of like 3 or 4 weeks, but it's really, really trying to push people to make you aware that you can now produce 10-minute long videos on TikTok. There's a reason that it's doing that, and it does this with a number of other features as well. If you're a creator on TikTok and you're using a new feature that's new to the app, the algorithm can favor you, because ultimately what TikTok wants to do is they want more people to see more of the features that they're posting. And you know, a consumer of one piece of content might go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm watching this 10-minute long piece of content. Maybe I'll post my own, and then it kind of feeds in. It's more of like a co-marketing opportunity as such. But yeah, if you ever see a new feature come up on TikTok and you think it could work for your brand in some way, then there's no harm in trying. Highly recommend you doing that. And lastly, we've kind of covered this in the other points here as well, but anyone has the power to go viral on TikTok, whether you've got 10 followers or 10 million followers. There is something out there for everybody. In the words of the TikTok CEO, if you have got talent, the algorithm will find you. So don't worry about that. Using your first 5 videos wisely. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, this is my own food page, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. When you create a new TikTok account on your device, and it's the only one that you've got on that device, you have the potential to have your first 5 videos, or up to 5 videos, boosted by the algorithm. And it does this for a number of reasons. So the first one is that it helps you build cadence over time. It's a bit of a morale booster. It's a good way to boost your confidence. It definitely happened to me. If you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's some terrible food content that I produced a long time ago. But that was my first ever TikTok, and it got 2,300 views. So in my head, I thought, you know, it's got 2,300 views. I need to post more content. I need to get my cadence up. You know, I need to keep growing my community. So for me, it's a really, really good way to kind of get me kick-started and make me feel like, you know, this is working. But what at the forefront of everything it's trying to do, it's trying to find out your target audience. The algorithm is basically putting the feelers out to different audiences from all over the world, trying to work out where your content sits. You know, food content might not be applicable to horror game fans, but you know, people that travel a lot, it might be really applicable to. It pushes you out to different groups of people, and depending on how they react to it, it then looks to integrate you into different communities. One of the things, this is kind of how like viral content works. Essentially, the algorithm pushes your content out to lots of different audiences. They all really enjoy it, and the algorithm goes, oh, okay, fine, we'll just push it out to as many people as possible. And that's why the content kind of clumps, and you end up with these kind of like 30 or 40 million view videos. And then, I've got some really nice stats to walk you guys through. So the first one is that 3/4 or nearly 3/4 of people on the app say that it's fine. It's easy to find people to relate to on the platform. And that's like I've been saying, that's thanks to the algorithm. It allows people to see content that they really enjoy. People don't have any complaints about it, and that's a really great thing. This is probably the most important stat that you'll see in this entire presentation. 82% of people globally on TikTok game at least once a week. So when you're thinking about making your content, don't worry about finding your target audience, because your target audience is absolutely everywhere. Just think about how engaging your content's going to be, and the algorithm will take you there. And the last one, 70% of people say that they feel part of a community on TikTok. So when you're making your content, you need to think about how can you drive that conversation? What's going to make people feel like they're part of a community? And that comes back to doing your own homework as well. Look at niche communities that you want to be a part of and work out how the community themselves are interacting with each other. A lot of people on TikTok, before they've even started watching a video, will go straight for the comments. So try and get a feel for like where you want your content to aim, and that'll drive it forward. Just one good thing to consider. Moving on to my wheel of distraction. So I shamelessly stole this wheel from a Mob Kitchen deck that I saw on LinkedIn a couple of months ago. I thought it was quite applicable. So just quickly on the left-hand side, just to show of hands, how many of you have got a TikTok account? It's a lot. How many of you have got a profile picture? Slightly less. How many of you have got a bio or even a username? Or are you just username 925? Okay, all right. So there's a few of you in there, but there's quite a few of you that just don't bother. What I'm trying to get at is that unlike any other platform on this wheel, nobody really cares from a consumer point of view who they are on TikTok. They are just there to consume, and they will not give you the time of day if your content isn't engaging. you don't engage with them in the first 1 or 2 seconds, then they know that they can just endlessly scroll. They can just endlessly scroll and eventually find a piece of content that they absolutely love. So always just keep that front of mind. People don't care what you're doing. They don't care if you can see them. They just want to consume. And it's one of the reasons why TikTok is trying to push TikTok now, or they have done in the last sort of 6 months, is that they realize that so many people on the platform are just faceless ghosts who just consume content and just click like. They want more people to engage, to use that whole canvas feature and, yeah, actually become creators rather than just consumers. Using it and not just selling it. So just to give you guys a little bit of context, I moved house in January, early January this year, and I've always liked cooking. I've never been amazing at cooking, but I quite enjoy it. It's good fun. I used to post some bits on Instagram, and I thought, you know what? I realized that actually I've been selling TikTok as a service, you know, with influencer deliverables and strategies to clients for years. You know, I know a lot about the data and insight side of it. I know how the platform works in some way, shape, or form, and I'm constantly learning about it. But I've never actually learned how to use the app itself. So I thought, well, okay, fine. Yeah, I'll just learn on the job. So I downloaded TikTok. I made my own profile, and yeah, I've just been posting videos of me making food on there ever since. But what's been fantastic is it's taught me a lot of things. So the first thing that it's taught me is it's taught me how to use all of the features for TikTok. So when anything new comes out, I'm able to capitalize on it if it works for me. Seeing what other people are doing in the space is obviously very beneficial, but it makes briefing influencers far easier if I already know like how exactly one of the creative processes is going to work out. Second one, audience timing. So for some bizarre reason, my audience is most active and wanting my content at around 10 p.m. After they've eaten their dinner. So a bit weird, but yeah, it's a good way to understand what your community are doing, how you can interact with your followers better, and you can do a lot of this in the back end of TikTok's kind of like analytics platform, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Next is refining your content. Do you remember like showing you the picture of the air fryer on my first piece of content ever? That ragu on the left-hand side does look a little bit better than it does on this projector. I do promise that looks better on a phone. But yeah, over time, I've learned how to refine my content, you know, use different plates, use different scenarios, refine my commentary. It's all been a really nice learning process. So if any of you are making content for brands, so I know it's very resource intensive, but I'd highly recommend just getting your hobby and just starting putting it on TikTok. There's definitely an audience for it and you'll learn a lot. And last one, the hardest, especially when you've got a full-time job, is being consistent. Yeah, posting 3 or 4 times a week is obviously a fantastic way to benefit like the algorithm. It just takes a lot of time. But yeah, try to keep that up as best as I can. And then on the right-hand side, yeah, so just as an example to show that anyone has the power, I think I've got 1,100 followers now. I mean, surprisingly, 1,100 people actually want to listen to what I have to say, for starters. And secondly, yeah, I've got nearly 250,000 views on one video when I've only got 1,000 followers, which, yeah, it's good. Anyone has the power. All of us do. Will it help me sell more games? It's a good question. And the short answer is yes, but no. So just on the no point, you know, it's no surprise. We've been working in the games industry collectively for over 50 years, and we've been selling games digitally and physically for all of that time, and that's not about to slow down, thankfully, because otherwise we all wouldn't be sitting in this room if people didn't want to buy video games anymore. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, using things like paid media and influencer marketing, PR, advertising, all that stuff is not going to go away. But what you are missing out on is you're missing out on a huge opportunity to target that 82% that's sitting on TikTok. And it's a fantastic way to stay relevant. I mean, one of the main things you're trying to do on TikTok is you're trying to stay consistent. You're trying to show, you're basically trying to prove consideration. And I mean, yeah, looking at these TikToks on the right-hand side from Sega, Techland, and Among Us, I can almost guarantee that these individual TikToks wouldn't have sold a copy of a game. But what they have done is they have allowed them to add an extra layer of interaction with their own communities. They've given them a reason to resonate. And much like other areas of marketing, we're there to put our brand in a really good position so that when people are actually ready to buy, they've already seen your content, they know that you're fun, and they're much more likely to do so. If you haven't started a TikTok account and you think it's going to be really hard to get it over the line with your bosses, yeah, you're there to drive consideration, not necessarily sales, especially with organic. So if gauging its success based on sales is just not going to be the way forward. Vanity metrics versus metrics that matter. Cool. So yeah, first one, likes and views. Don't get me wrong, likes and views are very, very beneficial, and you should use them as part of how you gauge success in your strategy. But by no means should you just use likes and views. There are many other ways, many other metrics that you can use that are going to be really, really beneficial to see how you're performing over time. The first one is engagement rate over time. So let's say you've not had your big viral moment, you're posting videos sort of 3 times a week, you're getting between 2,000, 3,000 views at a time, sometimes less. What you want to be seeing is that, if your engagement rate is going up over time, it means that you're heading in the right direction, even if it's just by a point every week, or even if it's just staying the same. It means that you maybe need to try and do something different, but nothing's going catastrophically wrong. Your audience is still there; they're still engaging. Profile visits are another great one, and yeah, the way I like to see profile visits in some cases is they're brand loyalists essentially. They are people that actively stop scrolling on TikTok to bother to come to your page and consume content that only belongs to you. That's somebody that really likes you, and they're far, far more likely to buy something from you in the future. But yeah, really, really good metric to gauge some success there. And the last one, unique viewers. This kind of ties back to the first point on views. So if you open your TikTok app and you scroll in between 2 videos, as long as they're not your own videos, if you scroll between 2 videos, every time you do that, each of those videos will get 1 view. Which is, yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to tell you is you can fudge the numbers for some people's content, which you don't want to do. Unique viewers shows you how many sets of eyeballs you can do that with. So yeah, much like how we work with other metrics across the marketing landscape, UMV, unique viewers, similar thing. And all these ones tied in together, including audience retention, are a much better way for you to gauge how successful your own work is. And a lot of this you can gain in the back end of TikTok on the creator toolset. Which we'll run through in just a moment. But first, is this it? Oh, yes, I've drawn a pentagram. I think that's the one. Yes, so this is kind of like the 101 brand strategy that I see come through from companies that want to start TikTok. They want to be informative, educational first, get the game features in there, get all the interviews in there, everything that we think is really important, it goes in. Brand-led, we want our branding all over the content. Still want it to be fun and innovative, but get like trending moments we're not too fussed about that because we're getting all of the, we're getting all the key messages in. It's not really how you should be working on TikTok. The way you should be working on TikTok is like this. You should be leading with fun rather than educational first. You should be thinking about how you can innovate. What's special about your brand that you can use within trends to make it really, really, really fun, and make something of yourself to get people to come back every day to see the content you're producing. And trending moments as well. Trends are, it's no surprise in this room that we know that trends on TikTok come and go all the time. And it's really important for you to capitalize on trends in that space if you want to grow in an organic manner. But you need to pick your moments with trending content. Pick trends that are right for you. And we will speak about that in just, more about why you're getting it wrong, potentially. I don't know if you are. The first thing is deleted videos. So let's say, for example, you're doing really well with your TikTok strategy, right? TikTok strategy is going really good. You've got 100 videos live. The engagement rate's going through the roof. It's really good. And you think, oh, you know what? Those first 5 videos that we posted, they're not amazing. Let's get rid of them. As long as you're not hurting anyone and you're not harming your brand and it's not like going to really, really offend someone, if you keep them up, just keep them up. What can happen is the algorithm has the potential to see you as an inauthentic creator if you start deleting content on the platform. And what it might do is it might harm the amplification that you have in the future. So my advice would be just use it as a kind of like started from the bottom, now we're here, rather than just trying to wipe it off the face of the earth. Just leave it as it is. Secondly, posting times. We've spoken about this kind of throughout the whole presentation, but I've given you like a visual representation of what the follower activity chart looks like on the far right-hand side there. It's just a really, really great tool. It's among probably about 10 different metrics that you can use on the creator backend that can help you understand when you need to post and what kind of content you need to be focusing on. The next one is consistency. We've spoken about this one as well. The main thing I would say for you is that if you're creating content and you only have resource, TikTok is massively resource intensive, right? That's why a lot of people stay away from it. If you can only produce one video a week and your social team, or you've got a really, really small like indie team, that's fine. If you can post one video a week and you can stick to that, you know, obviously you're going to grow at a slightly slower rate, but the algorithm will know that, you know, you're still posting content consistently. You're giving it the cadence that it needs, albeit not, you know, 18 videos a week. One is still better than posting 3 times a week for 4 weeks and then stopping posting for 6 weeks, because the algorithm just doesn't have a clue when you're going to post. It can't rely on your content. It can't trust you. So yeah, once you fall out of the algorithm, it is quite difficult to come back into it. So yeah, just keep it ticking. If one a week's fine, then that's good. And hashtags. So I don't feel like we really talk about hashtags that much in social presentations, but yeah, I mean, this is kind of just a piece of advice. The paid media website that TikTok is actually TikTok's own website, and I can link you guys to it after if you want to have a look. It allows you to track hashtags across the world over the last 7 days, 30 days. You can look at different industries. You can look at dance, video games, all kinds of stuff. It'll let you see like trending songs in the space, different creators that are doing really well, and TikTok videos that are doing really well. It's a really, really good hub. Again, if you haven't got too much time on your hands, it's quite a good barometer to understand what's going on in the industry. And yeah, if you're posting content, you want to add hashtags to it, use that site because it'll tell you what's happening. So with all this knowledge, what should you do? There's a couple more points. The first one, yeah, I mentioned this earlier. Don't shoehorn trends. So what I mean by this is on TikTok, there are hundreds of trends that happen every single day across the whole world. And you and I will see, every single one of us will see completely different trends at different points. Just because you really, really like a trend that you see on TikTok or on any other platform, don't try and shoehorn it into a creative that's not necessarily going to work. Like trends will come and go, and that you'll find a trend that really, really works for what you're trying to achieve. But if you try and cram as many trends into different pieces of content, it can sometimes fall flat and you kind of lose that engaging factor. So yeah, just pay attention, make sure, like, you know, you might need to be slightly more creative than normal if you're trying to do so. But yeah, if a creative idea is really, really just not going to work with a trend in particular, then don't use it. Or what you can do instead is you can just use a trending song. So instead of just capitalizing on the trend, you can use the song instead, and you can achieve the same results. The next point is finding your niche. So what I mean by this is, you know, spend time looking at communities that you want to be a part of. Don't just dive in and post 1 million videos all at once and hope for the best, because yeah, okay, you might gain some good engagement, but you know, is your community heading in the right direction? When you reach a certain level, it might be that, yeah, you want to take a different direction and your community might feel differently. So yeah, do your homework. I'd say you spend like between 20% of the time that you're making content on TikTok actually looking at where you want to be rather than just trying to get the content strategy right. And the last one, yeah, where's the nugget of gold? So always aim to put the most engaging part of a TikTok at the very start. I'd recommend within the first 1, 2, or 3 seconds is best. Because yeah, people aren't going to stick around. If they're going to stick around for the rest of the video, you need to give them a reason to carry on watching. So always keep the hook at the start. What should you remember? So yeah, I mean, I played around with this acronym for quite a while, and I thought because I'm at a game conference, I'd use Gyarados, and yeah, Thrash has yeah, dicked me over quite a lot in the past when I've been playing Pokemon games. So the first thing, yeah, capitalize on trends, but use them wisely. The next one is remember your hook and keep it engaging to give them an opportunity to watch more. The next one is recycle. So there's no, there's no penalization or punishment from TikTok for recycling a piece of content that you posted on the platform previously. So if you have a video that you posted at the very start and it's an absolute gem and you think, oh God, I wish we'd done something different with this. I wish we could have, you know, taken it a different route, or we did like a montage in it, or you know, you can do that. You can just get it and you can rehash it and post it on TikTok. It doesn't notice or doesn't care that it's the same content. The next one is ambassadors. So this is kind of where influencer marketing comes in. So if you do need to hammer this, then give us a chat. Using ambassadors is a great way to increase the cadence on TikTok. We all know it's very resource intensive, and using a creator that has between sort of 10 to 50,000 followers is a really, really good way for you to give like your own brand identity. And essentially be more authentic in the space. There are so many creators out there that are hungry to work with guys like you, and yeah, some of them would jump at the chance to do so. And it's usually quite cost effective as well. Keeping your content short and snappy. So you can obviously post videos up to 10 minutes long, but I'd always recommend between 30 seconds and 45 seconds, up to a minute max. But yeah, nothing more than that. Obviously you can if you need to. And lastly, yeah, probably the biggest key learning from me in my own personal experience is hoarding your content. Buy an external hard drive, buy more iCloud storage. Just keep all of the content that you make in raw form on a drive, because you never know when you're going to need it. If you're having a really bad week in terms of resourcing and you just need to put something out there that works, you can go back through the archives, you can make a montage, you can do a throwback. There's so much more stuff that you can do. And if you become just better as a person at editing content or just producing stuff, you can apply those learnings to that. So yeah, that's my number one piece of advice is hoard all your content. Outside of social media strategy and knowing quite a bit about the data and insight side of things, at Pinpoint, we offer a lot of different services as well. So end-to-end campaign management with influencers, like locally and globally. If you have anything that you're working on over the next few months or next year, and you'd like us to put together some creative strategy for it, then yeah, please drop me a line. I'd love to chat with you and learn more about what you're working on. Data nerds at heart. I absolutely love working with data. So if you ever want to create any bespoke reports or you just want some general consultancy about where you want to head, then yeah, let's chat. And lastly, yeah, out of home events. Yeah, over the last sort of year or two, we've been flying influencers left, right, and centre all over the globe, sometimes hundreds at a time, to esports events and game preview events. So if there's anything that's daunting you a little bit, and yeah, you want to do something that's cool out of home, away from a screen, then yeah, let's get in touch with me. We can have a chat. Cool. So with all of that, I'd like you to go over and win your new faceless audience. Be the champions of TikTok. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, hello. Hi. Thanks for the talk, firstly. I was actually really curious about like conversion with TikTok. And is it against other platforms? Is the conversion better, worse? And in those cases, if it's worse than say like conversion rates on Twitter, for example, is it then just better as kind of a brand building platform, so to speak? It's only because I'm kind of conscious that with things like Instagram and this as well, you have very limited, like you don't have links. You can't just post like links that allow you to click out onto other things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really difficult, I think. And that's why I was kind of honing on the consideration piece.
Yeah.
Is that on TikTok, you can't really create, unless you use like the Shopify and partnership like elements of the app. If you're doing organic awareness driving, you can't really add any CTAs to the actual videos themselves. Mm-hmm. You can do is when you reach a certain level on TikTok and you have enough followers, you can create like links on your own bio and profile. But yeah, I think without spending any money on TikTok, if you don't want to go down the kind of like paid media side and doing different hashtag challenges and that kind of thing, it's quite difficult to gauge conversions in that sense. But yeah, I completely know. I know what you mean. I think like conversions on Instagram are very difficult, and you can only do things on stories rather than like actually, it's.
Yeah. So in that instance, do you then think that it's probably just better, like you said? So I guess I'm trying to make sure I understand the concept. It's just more about keeping like kind of, I guess, like awareness of what it is that you're working on and allowing people to kind of see more into that rather than just, like you said, call to action to buy.
Okay. Yeah. The whole point is to let the world know that you're fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Your game or your product is worth knowing about, and you can poke fun at yourself, and yeah, you can just be the most authentic person. Because I think in an age where there are so many adverts and everything targeting us is trying to sell us something, if you can just be fun and be a human being and let people know that they can trust you, that's the most valuable thing.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
Hi. I wanted to know about if you opened an account a year ago, posted one video, and then did nothing, but I plan to start posting in the future, would it be better to start a new account for that?
I would say potentially start afresh. Maybe there's no harm with you putting out the video on your old account, seeing how that works. And then if that doesn't work, then maybe you can make a new account. But I think it might have kind of been out of the algorithms. It depends. Again, it depends entirely what the content is. If it's a super engaging piece of content, then it might just be swooped up anyway. But if you want to kind of just like wipe the slate clean, I'd recommend probably just starting again.
Thank you. Hello. A great presentation, really, really helpful. I just wanted to ask, one of the things that I always kind of struggle with any kind of like algorithm-based social media is that sometimes it can really, really reward similar niches and genres. But if you have a company that has quite a, I guess, diverse like array of games or products, sometimes it feels like you're building a niche that might like one thing, like for example, retro games. But then if you're putting out a visual novel in the future, it's sometimes a bit of like internal kind of culture conflict between what you're doing. So what would you kind of recommend in that type of situation to stop hitting a wall?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Do you mean that you're using one TikTok account to promote all the games?
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Okay.
A recommendation would always be to make. Yeah, you kind of answered your own question. You're trying to stitch together a lot of different communities when you want to create passionate communities that can bounce off each other for each individual game. So yeah, every game should have its own individual TikTok channel. A lot more resource intensive, obviously, but yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, because you spoke about keeping a lot of your content in a external hard drive.
Yeah.
So if you're filming in the actual app, right, that's a bit difficult to do without screen recording, and then obviously you reduce the resolution of that.
Yeah.
So how do you go about it? Do you film in CapCut? What is your method of madness there?
Yeah. No, completely. Yeah. I think I started filming the content originally in the TikTok app. And quickly moved away from it. It's what I do is I use the 4K or higher frame rate capabilities of my normal camera to film content, and then you can just plop those into TikTok, just like use them as linear. So they're actually just their own files rather than you trying to save down files from the actual TikTok app, because they lose a lot of quality. So my recommendation would always just be to use the video function on your actual camera on your phone.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're editing in different tools, like for example, Instagram hampers you if you don't record and edit within the app. Obviously, it reduces your viewership by 10% and those sorts of things. So it's sometimes you also don't get the same resolution on your phone. And obviously, just if you're speaking about like females in general who want to be on the app and like to use certain filter features and things like that, you can't actually do that. And I'm just saying this for like influencers that I work with and things like that. They always ask for those sorts of features, and they don't want to be, obviously they don't want to be like, if they want to be smooth faced, let's just be honest. They want to look good.
Don't we all?
I know. And that's something the TikTok app actually provides, and CapCut actually provides. But yeah, obviously when you editing in CapCut, it shows that you've edited on CapCut in TikTok.
Yeah.
So there's kind of got to be a way around that, but I don't know.
It's difficult. I guess it's kind of a case by case thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
What I do sometimes, if I feel like a video is targeting like a really niche audience, or, you know, post-food content that kind of applies to everyone normally, but what I'll do is I'll like cut up chunks of a video that I edit it in like Adobe Rush, or I'll edit it in like another software on my computer, and then I'll like import it just before I finished it, touch it up a little bit, and then I'll post it with the tags. Like that's kind of the route I'd normally go down. I hope that answers your I think it's difficult, isn't it?
No, it helps. I understand.
Yeah,
because normally I would just save like certain raw bits in drafts, and then I'll kind of like stitch them and move them around.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's why you spend all your time consuming content, but when it comes to actually creating it, you spend even more time. It's constant time sink.
Hi, I was just wondering about like engagement bait type stuff for comments, and if that's like worth doing, and especially if you've got a very small audience where you say like, oh, comment something, and then no one comments. So like,
yeah, yeah, that's always quite a difficult one, isn't it? What are you trying to do in there? You trying to have? Is it like a social competition, or is it just a way to try and
it was
spear
purely engagement bait.
Right. Okay.
Seeing
okay.
videos as they like, it's a good thing, you should do it, but then
Yeah.
you try it and no one does it.
Yeah. I think what I was getting at is that, yeah, you should be directly. Well, in some cases, obviously you can, but actually saying in the comments, please do this, just sometimes make people rebel. Like they don't necessarily want to do it. I think it's just kind of. Again, I'd need to see the content to kind of try and work it out, but it's trying to work out how you can spark that conversation from the content you're producing. Like, for example, right, and this is a really loose one, whenever I make my content, I try and add in something that's a bit odd. So like I follow this guy, he makes like loads of curries, and occasionally he just pulls out a sword and cuts the onion with a sword, like, but really quickly. And everyone's like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, why is he doing that? But like, they'll just watch it again and again. And you look through the comments and everyone's like, well, this guy's using a huge sword. So it's like adding something quirky in there that's quite entertaining and cool. Like just trying to think of like, if you were watching it, what would you want to see from it is probably the most important. But yeah, sorry. Again, I hope that answered it.
It does, thank you. Yeah.
Done. Thank you. Goodbye.